Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Life Groups Live. Hopefully you're able to see us on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube right now. We're trying out some new stuff. Kevin's worked really hard all week to get this set up for us, so hopefully you're hearing us loud and clear. We're going to have some fun tonight, but if you are on YouTube and you're watching this, we just want to clarify, this is Northside's youth group. If you're looking for the church service that happened this morning, you might need to go back and find the video before this or right before that. That's what you're looking for from this morning. But if you're here for Life Group Lives, we're super stoked you're going to be here. Make sure you're commenting on whatever you're watching. We got people ready to respond to you. There's a little bit of a delay from us to you, but we'll do our best to navigate that. And so if we ask for comments, make sure you guys put your answers out there so we know what you're saying. But to start things off tonight, we're going to start with a little game, and today's topic is about control. So I have some control trivia questions, and my friend Kevin is here. Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
Doing really well. I'm excited to be with everybody tonight, although I feel like I should have got some warning about this game that we're going to play. Because it would have been nice to do a little bit of research or something along those lines just to learn a little bit more.
Right.
I guess.
So you guys at home, this is the point of this game is for you to beat Kevin's score. There's going to be 10 questions. Kevin has not seen the answers to the questions. Some of them are easy, some of them are a little harder. But your goal is for you to beat Kevin's score. So it should be pretty easy, honestly. No offense, Kevin. So here we go. Let's start. You ready to start?
Okay, I think I'm ready. All right. All right, let's do this.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Question number 1 about control. So this is a keyboard shortcut question. So the key control on, you're laughing.
I'm laughing because I learned how to type on a typewriter, man, like in 5th grade. That's how old I am.
Good for you, Doug. Here we go. If you hold Control and the key Y, what does that do?
Okay, so if I hold Control and Y, I have no idea. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, Control oftentimes launches something, it's like a shortcut, keyboard shortcut. So I'm thinking that if you hit Control Y, I'm going to say it goes to somewhere like YouTube or something along those lines on your computer. Am I anywhere close?
No, you are not. Make sure you're commenting below. Oh, we have one that's gotten it. I see all these things. So the keyboard shortcut, Control Y, is actually undo. So if you, or it's undo, it's redo your undo. So if you Control Z, it's undo. And if you Control Y, it's redo what you just undid.
I feel like that makes no sense, but let's move on.
But somebody at home got it. A few people have gotten it, so you're already beating Kevin. Good job. Congratulations. Here we go. Question number 2, totally different. These are not the same theme, except they have to do with control. So, what 2005 song hit number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 that featured Ciara and rapper Fat Man Scoop?
2005 song?
2005 song hit number
Ciara.
3 on the Billboard 100 that featured Ciara and rapper Fat Man Scoop.
Fat Man Scoop. Well, we go way back.
I know you're a big Fat Man
Yes,
Scoop
I am
fan.
a huge Fat Man Scoop fan. I don't even know anything about Fat Man Scoop.
That means that hit me baby one more time. Nope.
I'm guessing it's something about control, so I'm going to go with Control U.
Control You.
Yeah.
You went manipulative.
Yeah, I went that direction.
So if you were going to write a song with Fat Man Scoop, okay. The song is Lose Control by Missy Elliott.
Oh, okay.
Duh. It's like her best song ever. It's awesome. Hopefully you guys know that song. I hope it's appropriate. So anyway, question number 3. If you got that right, a few of you I see are commenting you guys got it right. You're already beating Kevin. Good job. He's gotten 0 right. So question number 3. You still got time. What is a control group in a scientific experiment?
Okay, now this one I actually know. The control group is where you give them a placebo or nothing at all just to measure what you actually give the other people. So like it gives you like the results of kind of what's happening. So that's what a control group is.
Okay, he got one right. I think we need to, give honor where honor is due. You got that one right. That's right. And for sure I knew what that was. That's why I put it in here. So Anyway, here's a question. This one's for all you Mac users out there, okay? So we just talked about a PC control keyboard shortcut, right? But this is about Macs. So what is the equivalent of a control key on a Mac device?
Okay, I think it's the command key. This is the command key. The command key. You know, because it's like control on Windows, but on Mac, man, I'm commanding that machine what to do, all right? And it better do it.
Are you sure?
No, but I'm going to go with it.
You're locking that answer anyway?
Yeah, I'm locking it in.
Fun fact, it is command. He got another one right. But there's also a control key on Mac devices, but it's not the same, it doesn't do the same things. It doesn't work for shortcuts. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Fifth question, here we go. Hopefully you know this one, youth pastor. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
What is the 9th fruit of the Spirit listed in Galatians 5?
Love, joy, peace, patience. Self-control.
Self-control. There you go. Very nice. He also got that one right. Hopefully you guys got that one right. If you don't know what the fruit of the Spirit is, check out Galatians 5. This is a great opportunity for you to look at those and see what the Spirit empowers us with. So here we go. 6th question. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it on. Let's do it.
I want you to tell me the answer to this. What would you call someone who constantly orders others around and demands to be in charge?
Garrett Hawley. Is that... Can I say that? Can I say
Very interesting. Wow.
Actually, correction. Garrett doesn't do that. I'm going to go with, since we're talking about control freak. Control freak. Let's do that.
Control freak. The correct answer is Kevin Punch. So, I already beat you to your own joke.
Oh,
Just
man.
kidding, it's control freak. Yes, it's control freak. So how many is that right for you? You got 4?
I think 4. Yep.
4?
I think 4. 4 is what
Okay.
I've got so far.
Here we go. Hope you guys are at home keeping up with Kevin at least. Here we go. Number 7. Totally different question. If someone were to lose control of their bowels, what might they be suffering from?
Let me think about this. You
Yeah.
know.
Could be a lot of things.
Because it's like, I think dysentery, isn't that when you like just let
I
loose?
think that's something from Oregon Trail.
Or I would go with Taco Bell, the Taco Bell syndrome.
Taco Bell
you know, you ever eat at Taco Bell?
Yes.
You get their grilled stuffed burrito. 3 hours later, instantly regret. That's what happens. Instantly regret. So I'm going to go with. There's another one. Irritable bowel syndrome? Is that what happens when you like lose? Like, I don't know. Maybe if you're watching right now.
Can you give me one answer?
Okay. I'm gonna go with.
for one
I'm gonna go
answer.
with dysentery. That's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with dysentery.
You went all the way back to the Oregon Trail where people died from dysentery.
Yes, I did.
That was not what I was thinking, but I guess he's not wrong. But since it's not on my answer sheet,
Oh,
it is
come
wrong.
on.
You won't get this
Come
point.
on.
If you had gone with IBS or irritable bowel syndrome,
Ah.
or another name for it is called bowel or fecal incontinence. So if you have
Fecal
bowel
incontinence.
or fecal incontinence,
Bowel
you
incontinence.
might lose control of your bowels. So maybe
Man.
you got that at home. I saw a few people commenting IBS. So, my own mother commented and she said diarrhea. Technically, Mom, yes, but you don't get a point. Okay, number 8, here we go. What percentage of car crashes occur because the driver lost control of their vehicle?
Percentage?
It's a number. Good luck.
How close do I have to get? Can I get within 10%?
No.
Do I have to get it exact?
You have to get within 2 points.
Read the question one more time.
What percentage of car crashes occur because the driver lost control of their vehicle? This is a nationwide survey.
I'm going to go with, I think it's more than half. So I'm going to go with 57.7%.
57.7. You think I dug enough for decimals. That's great. I mean, you have a lot of confidence in me. You're very wrong. So go ahead, if you're at home, okay, we got 46, 67, 64. You guys, 73. That's not it. The correct answer is 11%.
11?
11%.
So what happens with the other ones? I have
They
full
made
control of my car.
They controlled their responses and wrecked on purpose, I guess. 11%, that's what is on the insurance claims. Lost control of the vehicle. All right, number 9. We got 2 more questions. Here we go. What chapters of the Bible tell about when Jesus demonstrated his control over everything by calming the seas and the storms. You should know this.
The sea and the storms. I should know this because I think this is what we're talking about today.
We'll talk about it later on.
Thanks, man.
Your Bible's open to it right
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it's Mark 4.
Okay.
Otherwise, we got some issues that we need to deal with later on. But Mark 4,
Mark
for
4,
sure.
You think it's Mark 4?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Absolutely.
There's another one. You get an extra point if you can think of it. It's parallel passage in another gospel.
So I'm going to go with, I don't know this.
I was just throwing free points out, but if you don't want to guess, that's fine.
I don't even, it's either Matthew or Luke. I don't think it's John. So I'm going to go with Matthew.
Sure.
And we're going to say it's somewhere in the range of, I don't even know, 8. I don't know. Am I close?
Yeah.
Am I really?
Yeah, Matthew 8.
Boom, baby. Right there.
What are the odds?
That's right. Didn't even go to Bible college.
I was hoping you would say like a number way too high. Like there's not even that many chapters in Matthew. Mark 4 or Matthew 8. So you get 2 points for that.
Yes.
What does
Nice.
that bring your total up to?
I don't even know. What am I at? Like 7, 6, 7, 8?
I don't know.
Something like
at,
that.
But
yeah.
okay, you got more than I thought you were going to get. So if you beat Kevin, this is especially good for you, I guess. But you also have Google at home, so you could be Googling things. I didn't think about that.
That is true.
Okay, our last question is about a superpower.
Oh,
right?
okay. Yep.
And I want to know what it means. Are you ready? I'm going to give you the name of the superpower, and you tell me what that power is.
Okay, I'm ready.
Superpower is omnikinesis.
Omnikinesis.
Mm-hmm. So what is omnikinesis, Kevin?
Okay, omni means all, or like all-encompassing. Like, you know, God is omnipowerful, or omnipresent means He's always present. So omni, and then kinesis is control. I actually don't know. I'm just gonna say, I'm saying control your mind. I can control people's minds.
You want to control people's minds?
I don't want to control people's minds, but I'm guessing
a
it is
lot about
control
Kevin tonight.
people's minds.
His manipulative powers. He wants to control you with Fat Man Scoop, and now he wants to control your mind. No, close, but not quite. So I'm not going to give you this point. Omnikinesis is the ability to mentally control anything and everything that exists, whether organic or created, whether existing now or in the future, right down to the molecular level.
Wow,
You didn't even mention
that's
molecules.
that's specific,
So
really.
I can't give you that one. No, you did pretty good. So I think, what did you get? You think you got 7.
7. I'm pretty sure. I think I got 7. I
I
don't
don't know. My math's not
Yeah.
good, but you got 7 points. So if you got more than 7 points without the help of Google, make sure you comment on whatever platform you're watching, and we'll add points if you're in one of the high school life groups. We'll add points
Absolutely.
to your total for your. What are you calling? What's the? You have this catchphrase. What is it?
Sunday Night Showdown. That's what
Sunday Night Showdown.
That's right.
So if you're in high school, if you're in middle school and you got those points, good for you, man. You're ahead. You're smarter than Kevin Punch. Congratulations.
Doesn't take much, by the way.
Well, more than I thought. Dang. You guessed Matthew 8. That was incredible. So anyway, okay, we're moving on from our game. So thanks for playing that. But don't be afraid to keep commenting as we go. Tonight we're going to be talking about control and like when we lose control or we've lost control and who is really in control. So I think it's fair to say that, like, I don't know if you feel this way, Kevin. As a society, we've kind of lost our minds recently, and for good reasons, right? I mean, this virus it was in China for a long time. It felt like it was just going to stay over there. It wasn't going to spread, but now it's here, and it's much bigger than we anticipated, most of us anyway. And so I know that for me, that caused me to feel like I've totally lost control. But what made me think about society was the toilet paper. I don't know about you guys, but toilet paper was flying off the shelves. People were being trampled in aisles trying to get so much toilet paper. And that was like the first thing that people grabbed. It wasn't food or milk. It was toilet paper. And I just thought, man, we have lost our dang minds. Like, there is no way that people feel in control. But the only thing they could control was to buy tons of toilet paper. So that if they needed control of something, they at least had toilet paper in their house. And I just thought, wow, we have really lost it. Kevin, what is something these last few weeks that you've seen people lose control of, or maybe you yourself have?
Well, first of all, I just have to say it's been interesting to see that toilet paper was the thing that people wanted. Because I feel like there's so many other options out there. There's tissues, there's paper towels, there's receipts. There's
Receipts.
scrap paper.
Receipt paper?
What? You could roll the receipts back onto the toilet paper roll, man. They would work great. All right. You've got coffee filters. I mean, that would, although they would kind of leak a little, probably, coffee filters. Anyways, so I have seen people kind of lose their minds this week, and I think for me even this kind of happened as I'm mostly working from home. We come up here to do the live night for you guys, and a little bit for us just to get out of the house and interact with people. But also one of the things that I kind of did this week where I feel like I lost control was on Facebook. A while back, our staff took some staff photos just for website purposes and promotional purposes. And one of the photos was kind of serious and, the good-looking side of Kevin. And then the other side was just to be goofy and silly. And so I grabbed a wig from our downstairs children's ministry area, and I threw it on, and this is what it turned out looking like. And as you can see, man, look at those golden brown locks right there. It is amazing and awesome. And I put this up on Facebook, and immediately people started commenting who I hadn't talked to in years, and all kinds of stuff started going on. And apparently I think I just lost control, and I just had to do something kind of crazy. But I think this happens to kind of all of us, right? In fact, if you're watching right now, just comment a time that you have just lost control. And it can be silly things like, I don't know if you've ever done this before, where you've sat down and you opened some Oreos. That's like a fresh new package. You peel it back, and then you start eating them. And about 10 minutes later, you're like, hey, what happened to my Oreos? Where did all my Oreos go? Someone ate all my Oreos. And then you realize, I just ate an entire package of Oreos.
Interesting.
And I feel awful, right? About myself. Or you've done it with cheese puffs or things like that. Maybe you've lost control when it comes to Netflix. And, you wake up in the morning, and kind of say hi to everybody in the family, and then you turn on Netflix, and then before you know it, your mom or your dad or your grandparent or your foster parent, whoever you live with, is like, hey, it's time for dinner. And you're like, what? It's time for dinner? I just woke up. I mean, I've just been watching a show, and pretty soon it's been 9 hours later, right? I mean, that's how it goes sometimes. But I think we've all had moments where we've just kind of lost control. Where we feel out of control. And sometimes it's by our own decision, but other times it can be things that happen to us, which is really what's happening right now. Where we feel like we are not able to go to school, we're not able to meet, we're not able to get together. And for some of you, your families have been really impacted by this, because maybe your mom or your dad or whoever you live with is not able to go to work. They're not having a paycheck right now, and they don't have control over that in their life. And so I realize that we're living right now in a time where we feel pretty powerless, and we may feel like, man, I don't have control over really anything. But Garrett, what got you thinking about that?
Funny you ask. Well, basically it was Twitter. So since we've not been able to meet in person, that's one of the main ways I can keep up with people. And actually for all of February and part of the beginning of March, before this all got pretty crazy, I wasn't on any social media. I was trying to stay off of Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I just had lost control with my use of it. So there you go. I was fasting from it for February. But when all this started happening, I was like, man, there's got to be some great memes on Twitter. And there were some really great memes, and it mostly had to do with toilet paper. But the memes weren't as impactful as my friends that were kind of talking about this week. And my friend Hunter, who actually he's part of the youth ministry in Arizona, but he used to live in Joplin, and we went to Ozark together, and he tweeted this, and it just stuck in my mind. I think this was on a Sunday, and this whole last week, it just has stayed with me. And so I'll just read. This is what he tweeted. He said, "In this season, if you feel out of control, know this. You have not lost control. You have lost the illusion of control."
Oh, that's good.
You
That's
never
really
had
good.
it in the first place. And so he just sent that out, and I saw it, and I thought, oh, dang, I think he's right. And I was feeling that loss of control, but really, the whole time, I haven't really been in control. I mean, obviously, we have something like this virus happen, and I think we all realize, we were never really in control. And I was just like, dang, that's so true. So that's what made me think about it, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it. But we mentioned this before about Mark 4 and Matthew 8, talking about when Jesus demonstrated his control. But I want Kevin to walk us through that story and then talk a little bit about it, if he would.
Yeah, so it's in Mark chapter 4, and the title of this little section of Mark chapter 4, it starts in verse actually 35. It's after a time when Jesus was just done teaching, and he was absolutely exhausted. And these guys, they all get into a boat, and actually there's several boats, and they start to go across the Sea of Galilee. And as they're kind of sailing across, then a big storm comes up out of pretty much nowhere. The waves start building, getting taller. In fact, water starts getting onto the deck. And at this point in time, if you're on a boat in the middle of a storm and you're in the middle of the sea, I mean, you're like, am I going to make it? Is this boat going to make it? Are we going to get tossed overboard? And at this point in time, they didn't have like life preservers in boats in Jesus' time. I mean, it was pretty much you get thrown overboard in a sea, in a storm, that's it for you. And so these guys are kind of freaking out. But what is Jesus doing in this passage? I think it's very interesting. It says that as this furious squall came up in verse 37, the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. Okay, think about it this way. Like tornado sirens go off in our area of kind of the world, right? We all wake up and we go find shelter, right? The storm is like lapping over the boat, lightning, thunder's going on, and Jesus, he's like totally crashed out in the back, all right? And so the guys go up to him and they're like, dude, shouldn't he be awake during this? Like, because we're about to lose the boat. And it says in verse 38, it says the disciples woke him up and said to him, Teacher, like, don't you care if we drown? And then verse 39, he got up, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, Quiet, be still. Now, I really want to know how he did this. And this is totally me just kind of reading between the lines. Because like when my 4-year-old and 6-year-old come into the room and I'm sleeping in the morning and they're like at 4 or 5 in the morning, they're like, Dad, wake up, wake up. Like my quiet be still is not like, quiet, be still, son, right? It's a little bit more aggressive than that. It's more like, quiet, be still, I'm trying to sleep here. But Jesus wakes up and he gives us quiet, be still, and boom, everything stops. The storm's gone. The waves kind of calm down and the boat settles. Imagine in that moment if you were one of the disciples. You'd be like, whoa, this is incredible. Like what just happened here? But Jesus did this for a reason. He said in verse 40, he said to his disciples, Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? They were terrified. It's like they were afraid of the storm, but now they're afraid of the power that is in Jesus, who is God. And they say, Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. There's two things that I love about this story. The first thing I love is it shows that God's power over all. There's a word that we use for this. It's called God is sovereign. It means he's in control of everything. It means he's over everything. And so he even has control of the wind and the waves in that moment. But the second thing that I love about this passage is it shows you that when you go to Jesus, you experience peace. And I love that because you're reminded that he is in control. It's a great story, Garrett.
Yeah, I love that story. Thank you for telling that story and talking a little bit about it. As I was kind of diving into this more this week, actually every morning I try and do a Devo by a guy named Sky Jitani. And I know, Kevin, you used some of his stuff in the past, but he's just a Christian writer, and he has a podcast that I listen to. And but anyway, since this past week, since this all really started hitting us all, he started writing about this illusion of control and different illusions we have that when a virus like this happens, or a pandemic, or even a natural disaster, or other things like this happen, and it just kind of hits us out of nowhere, we totally lose control. We're just reminded that like it's all an illusion anyway. We never really were in control. And in one of the Devos where he first started talking about this illusion, we've lost this illusion of control right now, and it's actually a good thing for us. He used a parable Jesus told in Luke 12 as the example, and it's actually called the parable of the rich fool. And I have read this before. I've never really spent a lot of time thinking about it. I know I've studied this at school, and I've even read it in my own thing, but I had never thought about this element of control. So let's talk a little bit about this parable and then see if you guys can draw this out with us. So what happens is essentially there's a super rich dude, and he has a great harvest, a better harvest than he's ever had, and he has crops that are abundant, and his barns are not big enough to hold all of his grain and his crops. So he decided to tear down his perfectly good barns and build bigger ones so that he could stockpile crops. And you think about this, we do this with anything, but it also made me think in a silly way, like that's what people were doing with toilet paper. It was like, hey, I'm going to grab as much as I can because I can and just hide it in my house or hide it in my shed or wherever people were storing all the vast quantities of toilet paper they were buying. But this guy, he has crops, and so he tears down these barns and he builds them bigger just so that he can keep it all to himself because he can control that and he feels safer whenever he has way more crops than he'll ever use. And so, but in verses 18 and 19 of Luke 12, it says this. The rich man, he's like explaining what he's doing. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page. He says this, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." And then God comes to him in this parable. He says, God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" Out of nowhere, God comes in and he's like, you think you can control the end of your days like this? You think you can control living easy, all these sorts of things? And he says, this very night, you're going to die. And what are you going to do about that? Who's going to have all this stuff you've stored up and stockpiled for yourself? The rich man completely bought into this lie, this illusion that he had control of what happened to him. And we so often do the same thing, but really, we have never been in control. I mean, and I think this virus has taught us that, and it's a hard lesson to learn and be reminded of. But because we know Jesus, we know who is in control. And I want Kevin to talk a little bit more about that. Talk about God being in control, how we know that, and what that means to you.
You know, as we were putting this together, I was thinking about what does it mean if God is in control, then what's my response to him? And very simply, my response is to trust. It's to trust him. And if I know that God is in control, then I'm willing to trust him even when things don't make sense. And even during our situation right now, I'm seeing God use it in ways that I never knew he could. It reminds me of actually in Acts chapter 8 when the church was persecuted. The church had begun and started, and there were people meeting together, worshiping together, but then the Roman officials started persecuting the church, and they scattered all over the known world. And it says when they did, they took the word of the Lord with them, meaning that they took God's message all over the world because they were being persecuted. And so they took with them that God's word, and they started sharing it with people who had never had the opportunity to hear it before. Now, from their perspective, they're probably fleeing for their lives. But from God's perspective, what is he doing? He's telling the world who he is. Mm-hmm. I think about our online services and even doing this life group live type thing that we're doing. There are people who are probably watching this right now that don't go to our youth group, that aren't a part of our church. In fact, we've heard of spouses watching our online service that have never been to our church before, but their spouse comes and they sit down and they watch the service together. That is God working his message. In fact, my wife had a coworker that recently has never been to Northside before, but said, "Hey, I saw you share that post online that your church was going live, and so I clicked it and I watched your service." That's God getting his message out. But from our perspective, it's like, man, this world's crazy and everything's just kind of shutting down. I know for me personally, there have been so many times when I've needed the message that God is in control. Sometimes it's in ministry, when the demands of people get hard and things just overwhelm you. And I imagine like some of you probably don't feel this way now, but some of you probably felt this way a few months ago with all your extracurricular activities, with keeping up with school, with keeping up with sports and all that kind of stuff. You have that sense of just being overwhelmed. And there's peace that happens when you say, wow, God is in control. I think about something I actually have on my desk. It's this thing right here. It says, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it says, God's got this. This was actually a Christmas present from a member in our church. And this little sign sits on my desk to remind me that when I feel overwhelmed, when I feel like everything's falling apart, even when I feel like a failure, that God is still in control. And so I don't know what's going on in your life right now. Like, I don't know if you're going through a hard time with your family right now just because you've been cooped up in the same house and you're fighting with your brother, your sister, or your parents, and because you guys like have all the shared space together and you can't get away from each other. I don't know if, your family has lost jobs or you're wondering, what you're going to do for your next step. But I do want to let you know this, that God is in control and He's got this. And oftentimes in those moments, our response is very simple to say, God, I trust you. I trust you.
That's good.
And so I want to challenge you guys during this time to very simply trust what God wants to do in your life and to say, okay, God, I know you're good and I trust you. It kind of reminds me, actually, this is a complete side note, but it kind of reminds me from the disciples' perspective of when Jesus went to the cross. I mean, they didn't know that was going to happen. That was like kind of a surprise to them, all right, that Jesus was going to be crucified, that their leader, their teacher, their rabbi was going to be crucified like a criminal. And so to them, it looked like chaos. It looked like the whole world was lost and that this person that they loved is being put to death, they're being falsely accused. But yet to God, it was Him saving the world. Because it was through Jesus' sacrifice that He paid the price for our sins. And by believing in Him, we experience salvation. So to the disciples, it looked completely out of control. But to God, He knew exactly what He was doing. Now I want to be careful because the environment that we're in right now, I don't know that God is actively making this happen or if this is a product of just a broken world and that we have broken bodies and we have things like diseases and natural disasters that happen. But I will say this, God will use it. And our response is to very simply say, God, I trust you. Mm-hmm. So as you go to your life groups tonight, we want to say thanks just for joining us just in this message. We want to say thanks for connecting with your life groups. If you're watching right now and you're like, oh man, I want to be a part of a life group, let us know that. Comment in the feed and we will totally get you connected up with a life group. Many of our groups are meeting virtually right now over platforms like Zoom or they're doing text message type stuff. There's one group using Marco Polo, which is an app. And so we want to connect you up with our church. If maybe today you realize that you've been trying to hang on to control and you need to let go of it, and you just say, God, I believe in you and I trust you. We want to know that. You can actually go to northsidechristianchurch.net/decision or decisions, and you can fill out a form there, and we want to get in contact with you to help you realize the God who is in control, to believe in Him and to follow Him. And so we love you guys so much. We are so proud of you. We're so proud of the church. We believe that God is going to use this. We know that He's in control, that He's going to use this. And we miss seeing you guys. Garrett, anything else before we kind of head out?
Just that we miss you, and we're really glad you guys joined us, whether that was on Facebook or Instagram or on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel of the church if you haven't already, because that actually makes streaming a little easier on us in the long run. If we hit 1,000 subscribers, then we can do it from our mobile phones, which would help us be able to connect with you guys better. But we are so glad you guys joined us. Thank you for talking about control with us and your comments, and most of them anyway. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next week, and I hope you have a great time in your groups. Bye, guys.
See you guys.